Batter up.
Well, getting Chris, they're on the air. Yankees, Mets, they're everywhere. From the Bronx to Queens, the diamond gleams. MLB talk, the ultimate team. And why MLB is the place to be. Bob and Chris with the pitch you'll see. Swinging stats and stories fly. Baseball talk that's amplified.
And welcome to a new episode of NYMLB Talk with your hosts Rob and Chris as we cover the Yankees, Mets, and all things Major League Baseball. And remember, if you're on YouTube, if you can, give us a sub or like as well on YouTube. And remember, you can follow us on TikTok. You can follow us on Twitter/X as well at NYMLB Talk. You can follow Rob at Armorosca. You can follow myself at CP7NY. You can find us on the South Florida Tribune, and you could also find us at sportswireradio.org. And Rob, what's going on, man? We got a special guest tonight. Why don't you introduce him?
Yeah, definitely. Listen, this guy knows so much about baseball at like a young age. He's like just a baseball prodigy. We have Eric Katz of Belly Up Sports joining us. And Eric, how's everything going? Thanks for coming on the show.
It's going well. It's, I think, we're starting to approach the stretch run, guys, where every game, every series is going to matter from here on out.
Oh, yeah.
And go ahead, Chris. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no. I'm just going to say that there's some big games this week, right? We already seen it now with Houston. And then, coming up next, we got Toronto, which is going to be huge this weekend in the Bronx, I should say. And then you got Boston after that. Big time games right here. It leveled, after these series, though, the Yankees got a chance to kind of rack up some wins, but they got to take care of what's in front of them right now, for sure.
I mean, it worried me you have to take care of the above 500 teams, because ultimately that's what you're going to be facing in the playoffs. You're not going to run into a team like the Washington Nationals in the playoffs, who are just, who are rebuilding. You're running into teams, man, that are like serious about going to the World Series. So the Yankees better get it together. And this will be a good litmus test to see where we think they're going to be at come the postseason. Not going to say it's like the end all be all. Just ask the Arizona Diamondbacks in 2023. But it's going to be a good litmus test to see what might happen to them.
No doubt. What do you think, Eric? I mean, well, we're going to get into a little bit more with the Yankees a little deeper. But what happened last night? I mean, we had the lead. Basically gave the lead to the bullpen. And you know what? In past years, that seemed like an easy victory for us when we had a 3-4 run lead and we give the ball to the bullpen, right, for the last 3-4 innings. But this year, it's been a mess. Well, what are your thoughts going on with the Yankee bullpen?
I mean, has the ghost of second half Clay Holmes come back? I mean, or when Aroldis Chapman decided to become erratically wild. But I think part of it too is just that you actually need to stop putting Devin Williams in those high leverage situations. He is not a high leverage pitcher. I mean, he is not meant to. He's shown all year. He had go through stretches, sure, but then he's been inconsistent at best. But for the most part, though, he's been an absolute nightmare to watch. We thought we're getting who had been probably arguably the best closer in the National League up to this point. Comes over to the Yankees, and the problem is two-pitch pitchers do not work in the American League. They don't. You got to have a wide arsenal. In my mind, the batters are significantly better. I mean, sure, the National League has Ohtani and Betts, Freeman, and whoever, but there's just more of those guys in the American League.
Yep, that is true.
Yeah, I agree, Chris. I want to ask Eric something about Williams, which we were talking about before. Eric, do you think that the Pete Alonso home run in the playoffs last year against the Brewers, do you think that's affecting him, or do you just think it's a combination of playing in New York and that, or do you think that's not even anything? It's just that him pitching in New York. What do you think? I really want to know what you think about that.
maybe in the beginning of the year, although at the same time, though, Devin Williams, I mean, just having him here in Milwaukee, he starts off the year kind of rocky. That's just his MO. He just, I don't know what it is. Maybe it takes him a little longer to get locked in. Maybe he's just, it's just early season jitters. But I think in the beginning of the year a little bit, but during the year he'll have stretches where he's good. And you think the guy's back to being the Devin Williams of old, but then he'll fall right off a cliff, and it'll be like an awful nightmare to watch. A combination of either Aroldis Chapman in the second half of his time with the Yankees or Clay Holmes for most of 2024.
Yeah, that's not a good. Well, looking at the Yankee bullpen, right? Like last night was a great example of it. They brought before Williams came in. Cruz was there. He didn't get the job done. And then Weaver came in. He didn't get the job done. And of course, Williams, if we're hoping Williams is going to get the job done, we know that's not going to happen. Going forward, like, how do you think the bullpen is going to do the rest of the way? And then going into the bullpen, do you feel confident that they'll straighten up, that they'll straighten out?
The only guys I really trust in there right now are Weaver, because keep in mind Weaver's been good this year. I mean, let's call it like it is. Weaver has been good this year. Sure, he's going to have moments where he's bad. I mean, that's just the life of a reliever, where they're either going to be the hero or they're going to be the one that messes up. So let's cut Weaver some slack. Plus, Weaver's also been hurt for a decent amount of the years, and then same with Cruz, who was good early, but he's kind of, it really just depends on like what kind of Cruz we're getting. But everyone else, like the roles have been really unsettled all year. I mean, you're at the point in the year where everyone in the bullpen should know what it is they're doing. But they can't just keep flip-flopping guys. I mean, Tim Hill's been great, but everyone else though, they leave a lot to be desired. And, I don't you can't go into the postseason where you can only trust maybe a few of those guys, because you need a bullpen to win. I mean the Yanks know that. They've had great pens in the past, and I don't see it this year. Being sure they'll go to the postseason, but everything's gonna have to break right for them to have another deep run.
Yeah, because you know what? When you look at them on paper, you got like 3 or 4 guys at the back end of the bullpen that should be really good. But unfortunately, they come to New York and, we get into, Devin Williams. He's not doing well. He's shown he can't pitch here. Doval, that guy, he looks like a total mess too. You would hope that Cruz could kind of straighten out, and Weaver and Bednar. So at least I feel good with at least 3 good arms that we could count on. Williams and Doval, it seems like no, you can't count on him late in the game in a playoff game for sure.
You better pray that it's a short series.
Right. Exactly.
Otherwise,
or you started to at least 6 innings.
Well, 7. They don't do that. Well, they don't really do that. As soon as they give up a run, it seems like they get the quick cook, because the regular season is if they give up 1, 2, 3 runs, go out there and save us. But if they even run into a little bit of trouble, like they give up a run or two, the managers nowadays are bringing out the hook, and that's that.
Yeah. Oh, I agree.
Yeah, definitely. Listen,
I'm not a huge fan of it, truthful.
I got a question for you. If the Yankees don't go far in the postseason, is this finally it for Boone? Do you think that if the Yankees get knocked out in the first round or whatever, and they don't make it back to the World Series, do you think this is going to be it for Boone?
It's hard to get a gauge in New York on what they're really thinking, because nothing's really come out publicly, and no one's come out publicly and said his job's on the line, and it hasn't been obvious all year. But I think, as much as I like Boone, and I think Boone gets way more crap than he deserves most of the time, because ultimately he's managing the players that are given to him by Brian Cashman. I think if anything, that one's on Brian Cashman. But I really think it might be because he's been there for a while, and Aaron Judge ain't going to be Aaron Judge forever.
That's true.
Yep. And I know for a fact that I'm pretty sure the Yankees do not want him to be a Mattingly Yankee, where he has those great years but he doesn't get the ultimate prize.
Right.
So, I don't think they want that. But at the same time, though, if they hire a new manager, and I tweeted about this a while ago, that guy, your Yankee fans are going to give him the same or the equal the amount of crap as they gave Boone. And they're going to look back. They did it to Girardi too, right before Girardi was out of there.
Yep. They couldn't wait to get rid of him. Some of these fans.
And then and now all of a sudden you're looking back on it like the guy is Casey Stengel. But it's going to be just the same. It's the same cycle over and over again.
Yeah.
I mean, continuity's great, but I think Boone's had his run. The Yankees have had some success. I mean, they've been a postseason team. He's only missed the postseason less than Girardi. I think Boone's only missed it like once or twice. And part of that was due to just the team was banged up all year.
Yeah.
And
2023. Yeah.
People forget that Joe Girardi missed the postseason 3 different times, including twice back to back, which unheard of for the Yankees. But I think he's kind of run his course. It's going to really depend on who's out there. I know Bochy is rumored to be out there, but Buster Posey is going to want him. But the Yankees are probably going to be looking for a guy who could win now, not a young manager figuring it out, because it's a veteran clubhouse.
Yeah, I think what. I think Cashman has one more year left on his deal.
Yeah.
So you would think he's going to probably ride out with Boone for one more year with him, right? And
Easily.
then maybe they both go. But to be honest, if they do replace him this year, like let's say they get knocked out quick in the playoffs, it's ugly, whatever, and they do get rid of him, I think they're going to bring in the same type of guy like Boone, a guy that they're going to, analytics 100%. This is what we're going to do. This is what the lineup has to look like and all that. So I don't know if it's going to do much. I think it's more of the roster. They got to figure out, they got to get the right combination. It's not just about, oh, that's a good name, let's get him, and so I don't know. But I think it's 50 like you. I don't get a good read on what's going to happen, but I just don't. If I had to guess now, I would say no.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if they bring him back, because I know the Yankees in particular do not want to pay somebody not to manage.
Right.
Which actually it sounds good on paper, but in reality, it's not fun. And but the thing about it too is, that's another thing I bring up to Yankee fans. I'm like, if Boone were to leave, let's just say he leaves, the Yankees are probably going to look for somebody similar. So you're essentially getting a clone.
Right. You're getting the same type of guy.
And you're going to give him the same or the equal amount of the crap as well. And the thing about it too is, I mean, I think the one thing Boone's gotten a lot of crap about is not calling out his players publicly. But here's the thing. In the age of social media, in the age of the internet and the news being 24 hours, you cannot do that in a place like New York. It will be a story for weeks at a time. They will not let it die. I mean, sure, guys in other markets like Pat Murphy can do it because it will be a story for maybe a day, if that, half a day, give or take, a day at the most. It'll be like a rainstorm, but then it'll just go away. New York, these stories do not go away. If anything, if the more they talk, the more they get amplified. I'll bring up Mickey Callaway again. Mickey Callaway had learned that too in New York. But it's unfortunate. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure Boone has his way of holding guys accountable. He's just not very public about it, which I think fans want him to be public about it, and that's just not going to happen.
It's just not what the Yankees want anymore, right? From the top down to the bottom, they don't want that. Look what happened. That's kind of one of the reasons why Girardi got let go, right? Because he kind of called out Sanchez with his defensive, liability and all that. And
Sanchez
they don't
deserve that.
Yeah, no, but he definitely deserved it. But you know what? The Yankees don't want that. Like Cashman don't want that, and Steinbrenner doesn't want that. You do that behind, in the locker room, fine, but they don't even want that in the locker room. They want them to pat them on the back, like, oh, you'll be fine. Like what's going on with Volpe. They want him to rip into Volpe, but like you said, do they really want him to do that in the right on the bench with the cameras on, and they're going to see him ripping into it? Well, what is that going to do? Nothing.
Also, Volpe looks like a muskrat. You don't rip into a muskrat.
Right.
I
He'll
mean,
start to cry.
Is he having a bad year? No doubt.
Yeah.
But they're not gonna. That's just not how it goes anymore. I mean, fans can hate it all they want, but I'm sure if they were on the other side of the table, they would want what's going on, because no one likes being called out publicly.
That you're right, but I have a question for you about Aaron Judge being the captain of the Yankees in the clubhouse. What do you think's going on with that? Do you think he's talking to these guys? I mean, I can't get a read on how Aaron Judge is as a captain of the Yankees, like some other captains of the Yankees. What do you think about that? What do you think goes on in the clubhouse with Aaron Judge as the captain when he needs to speak up to these guys?
I mean, you've heard especially in their particularly their midseason swoon, that they seem to go on annually with Aaron Boone. I would imagine, I know he's had meetings before, and I would imagine that he does. I mean, I'm sure he does. I'm sure he talks to guys. I'm sure he's talking to Volpe. We've seen it. He did it in the clubhouse when Marcus Stroman had his little incident for flipping out at Gleyber Torres in Toronto.
Yes.
And Aaron Judge giving him that's not cool. That's not cool speech. and a guy like Stroman somehow listened. But I would imagine he does. I would imagine it's a constant conversation. I mean, the reason you got the read on Jeter was Jeter did it for so long. I would imagine in 1996 you didn't really get that read on what he did, or actually 2003 when he did become the captain. But same deal. It's hard to know because we're not inside the clubhouse.
Yeah, listen, Torrey never did that in front of everybody, and I'm sure he did stuff inside the locker room. I'm sure if somebody did something wrong, he called them out in there, but you never seen that publicly. Even with Torrey. Yeah.
David Wells.
Yeah. I mean, he went overboard, but Wells is Wells, right? But I mean, other than that, you really didn't see that happen. It was mostly, and again, there were more than just one. There was more than one captain or more than one leader. We'll call it that way, right?
Yeah.
Tina Martinez, David Cohn, Bernie, all those guys. O'Neill, they were leaders inside that clubhouse. I don't know if we have that with the Yankees now. I think it's Judge, and that's it. Well, what do you think of that?
Judge for sure. Garrett Cole.
Yeah.
Garrett Cole for sure. I mean, when he's there, like with the team, obviously he didn't this year because he had Tommy John surgery. But Garrett Cole, you could argue is definitely that guy. I know like they were, I know he's one of those guys. I don't know. I don't think many have emerged right now. It's just a newer team. A lot of the guys are younger, still kind of finding their bearings. So, it's kind of a mix of veterans and that. So I don't know. It's really a mixed clubhouse right now. I just don't think we had the emergence of those guys because, at one point, I mean, ask Don Mattingly how he felt as the captain on the lonely island he was on from the early 90s onward, where that team had no leadership. Let's talk about 1990, where they actually made a documentary on that, talking about that team when nobody wanted to talk about that team.
Yeah, that's a pretty bad one. I think it's on Peacock, right?
It is, yes.
Yeah, oof.
There's some wild stories in there.
Yes.
That
I always know.
Was 90 the year when Moss had a bad year, or was that his? What was Kevin Moss's rookie year again? Do you remember?
He had that streak of home runs.
Yeah.
They had the whole Moss. I think that was 90, and then Moss kind of fell off the table.
Yeah,
he was one of those guys that was good. Was apparently the heir apparent to Mattingly for a little bit there.
Yeah.
And
that lasted about a year.
If that.
Yeah. Well, he hit like 70% of his career home runs in his rookie year. So, so that's how he turned out. But yeah, Mattingly, you're right. Mattingly was like on an island of himself for those teams. That's when New York was Met country, Chris. The
Oh yeah,
80s
late
and
80s,
and
early
and
90s.
early
Right.
90s. You
No.
got to give that to us.
Yes,
I give him the 80s though, but after I give him 86, 85 and 86, but afterwards though I saw one stupid trade after the other.
Yeah. Oh, and they were stupid. I mean, the one Dykstra for Juan Samuel had to be at the time bad. Kevin Mitchell, right? That trade was bad too. McReynolds was a
Okay.
good player, but I mean, just not a New York type player.
He didn't like playing in New York.
Yeah, and the Mets broke up that
yeah,
team.
he
You're
seemed like
right.
a
They
West
broke.
Coast guy. He seemed like a
Yeah.
West Coast guy, McReynolds.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he played
he
for the
definitely
Padres.
Yeah. So Eric,
Yeah,
let me
so-
ask you this. I mean, I know you don't have the same connection maybe as I do with Mattingly, but what are your thoughts about Mattingly coming back as manager? Because I'm 50-50 on that, because I know if he comes back and if he doesn't win, like you said, we're going to go through that whole cycle, right? It's great having Mattingly. He's great. We love him. And then if he's not winning, guess what's going to happen? The fans are going to crush him and run him out of town. Well, what are your thoughts?
Mattingly is not that good of a manager. He had some pretty stacked teams during his time in Los Angeles, and he never got out. He didn't get it done there. I mean, he had some nice teams there, like in a prime Andre Ethier, prime Matt Kemp, prime Clayton Kershaw, and didn't get it done there. And that was when too the Dodgers were really starting to kind of do what they're doing now. But I don't want him back. I mean, I can't really put the Marlins on him too much because let's be honest. That team probably could be, if we were comparing congressional districts, okay, they'd probably be the poorest one in Major League Baseball. But it's I don't think fans would want that, because Mattingly's, number one, he's not that good of a manager. Number two is he's still very much loved in New York. When people look back on the times when the Yankees were just going through it, they all watched Mattingly, and they made coming to the stadium worth it, even if it wasn't full. It was worth seeing Don Mattingly try and bust it every game, night in and night out. So I don't see it happening. Besides, his track record as a manager is just not very good. That's just what it is. And Mattingly was here once before when he was he was actually a coach here at one point. And he was the Yankees hitting coach, and actually that's kind of how he became manager. I know the Yankees interviewed him in the past. At the same time, they interviewed Girardi, and ultimately went with Girardi, and that worked out. But I don't see it. I don't see him coming back. I really don't. I wouldn't want him back because he wasn't that good. He went to the NLCS once and didn't get done. Actually, in his last season, the Mets eliminated him in 5 games, where in that series during that weird playoff year. But it's just they just outside of them going to the NLCS his third year in LA, it's just his track record's really not great.
Do you see any of the, because I know I see it a lot on social media, people, they should bring back Posada, they should bring back Tino, all these guys, and I'm like, they're not coming back to manage, right? They're just not coming back. These guys are worth hundreds of millions, over $100 million. They're not coming back to deal with this crap, especially with the young families that they have. So what other former players, Yankee players, do you think that they would try to bring in as manager, if any?
Well, Jorge hasn't really expressed an interest in managing. I don't think he's even brought it up. Yeah. Tino tried to coach for a year, and we saw how that turned out.
Right.
with the Marlins, and the players kind of, if the players were starting to change, then oh boy, Tino, you're in for a treat now. You'll probably hate it even more than back then.
Right.
Everybody could say Tino, but Tino tried to coach, and we saw how that worked. And we also saw Tino tried to broadcast too, and we saw how that worked. But I don't it's really hard to gauge the manager's market. I'd love to see them bring back in Alomar would be a cool one from Cleveland. He's been kind of the heir apparent in that dugout for a long time now.
Mhm.
Alomar would be an interesting run, especially because he's been a part of some very successful teams in Cleveland, and damn near almost won a World Series too.
That's right.
But I don't know. It's really hard to gauge though, because who are the candidates? Who are we talking to? Because the the players that the people that the Yankees have spoken to really have been, really either have had a small history with the team or no history with the team at all. I mean, I know the Yankees interviewed Chris Woodward at one point, and ultimately went with Aaron Boone. So I don't know. It's really, really hard to see. It's not like other sports where, particularly football, where the guy's going to be a head coach at some point. But baseball, it's really hard because it's just not that. It's just not like that, because there's a lot more that goes into it because it's a longer season.
Yeah, I could see how Chris feels about Mattingly too. He doesn't want to see Mattingly like ruin his legacy, right, Chris? You don't want to see Yankee fans turn on him, and I understand that. I don't blame you for that. And like Eric said, he doesn't have the best record as a manager. He's not that great a manager. 2015, the Mets, kicked the Dodgers right out of there. And Mattingly didn't manage that playoff series that well. So, I agree with you. I probably wouldn't want to see Mattingly as manager of the Yankees, because ultimately, if they don't win, the fans are going to turn on him. And how could you, Chris, could you imagine if the fans turn on Don Mattingly?
Oh,
You think that wasn't a factor too when after Torrey left? You can call it fired or left or whatever, but that was also a thing of two sides didn't know how to say goodbye, which made the ending worse.
Right.
But you had to think that wasn't a factor in why they picked Girardi over Mattingly.
Yeah,
I mean, you had to think that was a factor into the reason why Girardi got the job and Mattingly didn't, because Mattingly is such a beloved Yankee. Girardi, not really a beloved Yankee, had some good moments for the Yankees, but not a guy who everyone remembers. I mean, besides the triple. I mean, same with Aaron Boone. Aaron Boone had the home run, but other than that, he was not the only other contribution he had for that team besides the home run was being stupid enough to play basketball, ripped up his ACL, and that's how they got Alex Rodriguez.
right. Yeah,
That's
exactly. Right. He was right. He was the reason why we got A-Rod. Exactly.
Which, but yeah, I mean, aside from that, though, I just don't think the Yankees want to ruin that legacy. He was kind of the hope, the great white hope, while everything else around him was dark.
Yep.
But I don't see it happening. I don't think I'm not sure if Mattingly wants to manage right now, to be truthful, because I'm sure there are countless times in Toronto where he could have easily gone after some jobs and hasn't. But I think he's pretty content with doing what he's doing in Toronto. I mean, Rob, we've seen the interviews Scott has done with Don Mattingly, and
he seems happy, right?
Yes. I just don't think. I think he'd rather be kind of just a coach at this point, working with the players individually, not managing the whole clubhouse.
You're right. I think you're right. And you know what? I don't think he wants the pressure of managing the New York Yankees. And I don't think he wants to ruin his legacy either. So we know he interviewed and Girardi got the job, but that was over 10 years ago.
That was 2004 when he first
that was like 21 years ago. So it's like
that was after Girardi. That was after Torrey left, and he hadn't managed. He hadn't managed up to that point, and he was looking for that first managerial job. And he was also coaching a lot during that point, first as an instructor, and then later on joining the staff full time. But now that he's gotten a taste of managing twice, both in a big market and another small market, I just don't think he wants to. I think he's just waiting for the right situation. I just don't think the Yankees are that situation.
Right.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I mean, really, the pressure, the pressure that would be on Don Mattingly if he was manager of the
It'd be
Yankees,
awful.
especially, yeah, I know, especially now that they, haven't won the World Series,
Whoever
since,
comes in is going to feel that pressure,
yeah,
right?
but it
Now
would
it's
be a dip, Chris.
16 years.
It would be a different pressure on Mattingly, don't you
Yeah, no
think?
doubt.
It'd
Yeah,
be
I
worse.
totally agree. Yeah,
Whoever goes, regardless of you, if you go to the Yankees or Mets, there's pressure. I mean, that's just the name of
Oh,
the game in New York. But if you're Don Mattingly, though, you have two layers. You have the fact that you were that guy during the '80s, and then you also have the fact that the Yankees haven't won in a while. That's unbearable. I can't see the guy sleeping at night.
and then on top of that, he never won the World Series as a player, so he's gonna always hear that throughout his time, with the Yankees. It's gonna be like, oh, you didn't win while you were here. You left the year before they won in '96. It's all that's gonna keep coming up. So I agree. I don't think it'll be a good idea.
Well, it's hard to
Yeah.
fault him for '96 because I don't think anybody predicted the Yankees to win in '96.
No.
no,
I mean,
you're
90
right.
I don't know. I'll disagree. 90, you got to remember they were coming off making the playoffs
Yeah.
in '95 against the they just lost
Yeah.
that horrible series of the Mariners. But
Yeah.
I listen. It's one of the few years I actually got my World Series prediction right, and I don't pick the Yankees every year just because I'm a Yankee fan. But I did like the Yankees' chances that year going in. I just thought the Braves were the better team, and I did have the Braves winning that series before the season started.
Yeah.
But yeah,
the Braves
I-
also won the Braves also won the season before too.
yes.
Yes.
Against
Yeah,
the
no, they were
Cleveland-
great.
against the
I mean,
Cleveland
look, I mean,
Indians.
with that pitching staff, why not? I mean, how could you pick against them?
And
You
keeping
can't.
keeping up with the Joneses lineup with Andrew and Chipper.
Yeah,
That's right.
exactly.
Listen,
He
they
was a
they
rookie,
were
right?
horror.
I think it was a rookie that year.
95,
Yeah.
he was a rookie.
They were a horror for the Mets, that's for sure. I had to
Yeah.
suffer through all that stuff. All right, let's switch
Good.
it up to the Mets a little because I want to get Eric's take on Nolan McLean. What do you think of Nolan McLean right now? What you've seen of him?
He's, so far, I mean, in a few starts, the guy looks like the real thing. He's, I think he's going to, given what he's doing, I could see him factoring in the postseason for the Mets. He's done extremely well in his call up during the second half of the year. It would not shock me if they put him on the playoff roster. It would not shock me if they do because he's young. He's young. He's clearly spinning the ball. He's been the Mets best pitcher this arguably in the second half when everyone else seems like they're going through it. But yeah, I mean, Nolan McLean just looks unreal right now. And he's 24 years old. I mean, nobody, it's hard to do that at age 24, much less be a pitcher in New York and to have an ERA of $1.37 and have 4 just really amazing starts. I mean, gosh, it would not shock me if he becomes a factor come the postseason if the Mets decide to use him in that regard.
And you have to think about this. First of all, he looks like he had no fear out there, which is, that's unbelievable. We have guys, we have veterans who cannot pitch in New York, and we have this kid come in when the Mets are having problems and the Mets need a stopper, and this kid has done something no New York Mets pitcher has ever done. He's won his first 4 starts. No, he was the first one to win their first 3 starts. And think of all the great pitching staff the Mets have had, the great pitchers. This kid, he looks like the real deal so far. I mean, I know it's only been 4 starts, but he has shown no fear out there.
Well, you got to give him credit too, because you got to give him credit for what he's doing though, because prior to that, the only guy who's been good, you could say has been good in the first half is David Peterson.
And you're right, but I think Clay Holmes has been pretty good too. It's just that Clay Holmes, we know, and me and Chris discussed this so many times. He's not used to pitching this many innings.
It's his first year doing it. He's still throwing his body into it. So I don't know. He's been good for what he's been, but he's just not he's a guy you want like in the back of your rotation, not the front, the back. Okay, your bullpen knows what it's going to be. You can't expect the guy to go deep and whatever. So be ready to go. But it can't be every single game because man, that bullpen's getting taxed because even Ryan Helsley's getting hit hard.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
what?
He's like Devin Williams with us.
Yeah, and the thing is, though, he for the time he was on the Cardinals this year, he was pitching great for the Cardinals. He gets traded to the Mets, and he's not the closer. And Chris, me and Chris have been discussing this. Do you think the fact that he's not the closer anymore is affecting him, or is he tipping his pitches? What have you seen? What do you think's going on with him?
I don't think the closer should be a factor in what he does because closers but because really in St. Louis, even though his stats will tell you otherwise, though he was not the same guy as he was not the same guy as he had been in St. Louis. But I think it is, if it's tipping his pitches, that's a problem though because he's practically giving it away, but also his fastball doesn't have the same life to it. I think that's another reason too. His fastball hasn't had the same life to it this year. Sure, he pitched better in St. Louis, but he's not that closer of the year guy who from 2022 and 2024. He's not the same guy.
Yeah, you're right. And me and Chris were also discussing why didn't anyone give David Robertson a shot until the Phillies did? He was hanging out there all season. No one took a chance on him. Do you think it was money? Chris, you think it might be money, right?
Yeah, I think he wanted a certain amount of money, and nobody was willing to give him that amount of money. But he was a solid reliever last year. I'm not saying he's a closer, but a solid setup guy for you that's been through, everything, playoffs, New York, everything. So he could handle wherever he was going to go. I just didn't understand it. I guess it was just a financial thing.
Yeah, Eric, what do you think?
I think part of it was money. Also, the guy's 40 years old.
True.
40. I mean, there are very few relievers and pitchers who can still make it work going into your 40s. There's only one guy who did an insane job at it, and that was Mariano Rivera. But I think it's his age too. He's 40. You didn't know what you were going to get with David Robertson at this point in his career.
Right.
I mean,
yeah, that's why they didn't want to give him the money.
Yeah.
I mean, people forget too that his career probably as early as probably around 2019, around the early part of the 2020s, his career was on life support, and he had the injuries, and he wasn't the same guy. It wasn't until he went to Chicago that he became that guy again. People forget though that his career during like his middle 30s was on life support, and he also had to pitch for Team USA in the Olympics because he wasn't getting too many job offers either because he had been hurt. He hadn't been the same, and he didn't pitch all that great in Tampa, which is known for, churning out pitchers. But, I think it wasn't until he got to Chicago that he was still, that he still showed that he could do it. So I think part of it's age because you didn't know because teams, I think, were anticipating that crash that he experienced in his mid-30s happening again.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. Now, I want to bring up Juan Soto because it looks like he's back to being Juan Soto. What were your thoughts about how he started out the season with the Mets and everything that went on with Juan Soto?
Well, I always thought of him to be with the Yankees. I always thought of him to be a diva. I like the home runs, but some of the side stuff I can do without, especially openly talking about your free agency all season. When you should be focusing on the fastball coming down the plate that you want to just park up in the right field bleachers. I thought it was pathetic the way he started. The $750 million man is just hot dogging it down the first base line. He was single-handedly broken in the Bronx where he used to be loved, and the Yankee fans practically split his heart in two to the point where I'm not even sure he could. I'm shocked he was able to even go in the box and swing the bat. But it's good to see, he's kind of coming back around. I wouldn't say he's completely back, but he's kind of coming back. But here's the thing, though. This has been his career. He was in Washington, won a World Series there. And then he thinks that the grass is greener on the other side after he's traded to San Diego. He didn't enjoy himself very much in San Diego. And because he wasn't the guy. That team belongs to Manny Machado and Fernando Tatis Jr., which even they've had their differences.
Yeah.
Then San Diego trades him to New York, and he's having a blast there. But again, he was not the guy with the Yankees. That will always be Aaron Judge's team, whether Aaron Judge is slumping or not. That team will always belong to Aaron Judge. And I'm not sure Juan Soto could live in that shadow because New York's not big enough for two of them. And then he goes to New York, the Mets, and then for a lot of the season, he was unhappy. That's just been the trajectory of his career. He thinks the grass is greener, and it's not. But he's been hitting the ball well as of late. I mean, he's about to, he's got an opportunity to cross the 40 home run threshold, which is something he did last year. But the other thing too is he realized too that it's not easy. It's not easy being the guy or being what Aaron Judge is, because pitchers are gonna pitch around you, and that's how guys like Pete Alonso get all the good ones to hit.
Yeah, and listen, that has helped Alonso so much that we know Alonso is going to opt out of his contract. Of course, I mean, come on, who could blame him? And yeah, here we go again, like last off season, and the Mets should just pay the guy, because Pete Alonso means more to the Mets than he'll mean to say the Seattle Mariners or whoever else would want to sign him, especially after this year. His walk year last year, we know, was horrible, but this year it's a totally different, it's a totally different story. So what do you think? What do you think about him, opting out and re-signing with the Mets? Do you think the Mets are going to have an edge? Do you think Steve Cohen's going to tell David Stearns, we got to sign him? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, first base is kind of not what it used to be. It's no longer dominated guys like Prince Fielder and Albert Pujols who can command big bucks. That's the thing, because they can easily bring a guy who's on the latter part of his career who can still hit. They can easily stick a guy over there and have him learn the position, and that's that. I don't know. It's so up in the air. Steve Cohen practically let Pete Alonso rot before he came back. Same with David Stearns. Same with David Stearns. It's good. It's going to depend though, because now Scott Boras has a lot more leverage now than he did the last time around. I mean, it didn't help though that Pete Alonso can't read his own market, and I always thought of him to be a dumb jock anyway. And I really do believe that about him. Matter of fact, I went on Belly Up Sports about that whole contract standoff. I practically wrote you could probably consider it a 3-part series where I went on a rampage on both Scott Boras and Pete Alonso. And then I later ripped Mets fans for saying they're booing the wrong people.
That's great.
But I don't know. I mean,
but it's kind of worked out for him though, right?
It has. I mean, sure, it has, obviously, but it has, because
it could have backfired though, right? I mean, you are right. It could have backfired.
But if you put Pete Alonso by himself though, without Juan Soto, I still think you get the similar numbers that you would get from last year. An 88, 90-ish RBI guy. Yeah. Maybe 25, 30 home runs. But I don't know. I mean, it's going to depend though, because there are plenty of teams who could use the power bat. And I think Pete Alonso's market is going to be a lot bigger this year than it was last year. But it's going to depend on the years though, because I think they're willing to pay him higher AAV, but they don't want the years, because if you're primarily a home run or bust hitter like Pete Alonso, when you age, that's not going to play too well. You're gonna go up to the plate and look like something closer to what Carlos Santana has been this year, and and look really bad, yet you're going to be drinking from the coffers of Steve Cohen, which I don't think Steve Cohen wants to pay guys to not play for him anymore. He did that he had to do that with Max Scherzer, and he did that with a bunch of other people, like bringing in a Robinson Cano for a swan song. But it's going to really depend on what the feeling is. It's also going to depend on his market, because I know there are other teams out there who will be more than glad to take Pete Alonso on, except what does Pete Alonso want, the years or the higher AAV? If he wants the years, though, I'm not sure if New York wants to do that.
That's true. Cano, though, was the Wilpons. That was when Mickey was. That was in 2019. So that was the,
Right,
that was
I
the
forgot.
Wilpons. But I know, but
he came back in that Diaz deal, so that probably was part of it, right?
Yeah.
Listen, Diaz that year, we talked about, we talked to Mickey the other night about this. If Diaz is Diaz that year, the Mets definitely make the postseason. That was the problem. Diaz wasn't Diaz. He was horrible, and the Mets didn't make the playoffs. So if that doesn't happen, I think things would have been different, and Mickey probably would have got another year.
I was surprised when they fired him when they did, because Mick didn't have the bats either.
You're right.
They were not like the 2021 Brewers, where they just had the timely hitting to go along to, even though they had a weak offense, they still had the timely hitting there. The Mets had none of that. And I think if he had maybe another bat or two, and the Wilpons didn't make Bernie Madoff their financial advisor, I think Mick, Mick has another opportunity. I mean, I think he'd probably, if they go to the playoffs and maybe surprise some Cats, I think he gets another 2.
Yeah, and that you have to remember though, the next year was the COVID year, so that messed everything up.
And they threw Luis Rojas, and then Luis Rojas got thrown into a really bad situation because they were going to hire Beltran. Of course, Beltran was, who knows what he did with sign stealing. I think it was just the fact that he was one of the players who was there during that way. The league didn't want the black mark on him. So I don't really know what he did do or didn't do. Because we'll never know. Only Beltran does. Oh, what was funny though is he came back as a front office advisor, which was kind of awkward. But it's going to. But yeah, I mean, and that's how the Rojas got the job when they didn't want to hire him, but had to because it was too late in the year. And then they fired him. And then they fired him, I think, after just 1 year because they never wanted him in the first place.
No, it was 2 years, and then Buck came in, which that's another story.
Buck was
right.
Buck was up and down. Buck had a great first year, but but the Mets meted like they usually do and gave away the division to the Atlanta Braves. It's I think if Mick makes the playoffs, he gets another year. But keep in mind though, the Wilpons were probably just as dysfunctional as the Kardashians.
Yeah. We know that.
I agree.
Definitely. All right, Eric, before we end the show, we always ask our guests this one question at the end. If you were named commissioner of baseball, what changes would you make to the league?
I'd make a lot of changes, actually.
Okay, let's hear it.
I'd get rid of the run. I get rid of the runner on second rule. I think it's the dumbest rule in baseball. That the only reason that rule was put in place was because of COVID. I mean, baseball moved along just fine without it. It's just that these stupid walk-up songs are what takes up the time because the player doesn't want to go up to the box without hearing his song. That's why the game stretched so long.
So get rid of that too, right?
Well, I got a complicated relationship with that one.
Okay. No problem.
What else would I do? I think, I would actually put a signing period on free agency. And here's why. Because I am sick of players waiting till damn near the beginning of spring training and signing, especially pitchers. Pitchers historically, when they don't have the full – pitchers need the spring training more than the hitters. Hitters, you could survive without it, I think. Obviously, You could survive with just going to part of it, I feel like, though, because when you just get your timing down. Besides, even when you go into the season and it's super cold outside in a lot of cities, it's gonna, some guys take a little while to get going. You could play it in as many exhibition games as you want, but you're not necessarily. It does not beat actual game speed when you're going up against the best of the best in this league. When you're forced to face a Garrett Cole or a Nolan McLean or somebody else every 5 days. So you're instead of facing an erratic minor league pitcher who we have no idea where that ball is going to go.
Right.
I think
that's true.
I can't really do anything about managers deciding to pull pitchers early. I mean, everybody's talking about a 6 innings limit. Well, what if the guy's getting golfed around?
Yeah.
I don't like you can put the rule, but what about the guy's getting beat up? Now you're giving away a competitive disadvantage there.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I'd probably take out the runner on second rule. I think we can do without catchers getting barreled into. Really, I really do believe that, just because as entertaining as it is, you can get really hurt, and I think taking out infielders, I can do without it. It's fine. Although I wouldn't mind it if you could lightly hit him in the leg, lightly, not just to at least make it a little more entertaining, so you at least have a chance to take out the double play.
Right.
But I don't think you need to I don't think you need to run at him I don't think you need to pull what Chase Utley did to Ruben Tejada there.
Yeah.
I don't think you need to do that. But I'd probably add a little bit more, a little more physical contact to the game in that regard.
All right, that's everyone picks the ghost runner because no one, of course, likes it. That's like Little League, all right? It was for the COVID era there. It's done, that's not baseball. But anyway, Eric, do you have anything that you want to plug? Anything going on that you want people to know about?
You can follow me on my Twitter at Sports Team News. And then you can also check out my blog at bellyupsports.com, where I write about all things baseball. And if you think I don't like your team, I probably don't.
I love when he says that. And you could also see him with me and Mickey Callaway on 108 Stitches on Monday nights. And I will be back this Monday night. We were off for the holiday. But Eric, thanks for coming on the show. Chris, you have anything else you want to ask Eric before we talk about tomorrow?
No, you know what, Eric? Thanks for coming on, man. This was a great conversation.
No
Covering the Yankees, covering the Mets, a little baseball as well. So, all right, before you go, let's throw this out there. Give us your World Series prediction.
Oh boy, it's
sorry to put you on the spot, but
it's wide open this year.
I'm not going to hold you to it. Don't worry. Just what you're feeling right now. Your gut feeling. What are you feeling right now?
Man,
it's hard. I agree. I don't feel it.
There's no team that's like
no.
There's no team that like is. That's every team has flaws.
Right.
Like it's just this year. It's just a matter of which flaw is going to show up at the worst time. Which these days I'm feeling like it will happen to the Dodgers. I feel like the Brewers can do it this year. I feel like the Brewers will. I feel like the Brewers can. I mean, they've been unbelievable this year. Sure, they've kind of cooled off a little bit, but that happens throughout the course of a season. I feel like the Brewers can do it, and I'm gonna say they're gonna face the Tigers. I mean, I wouldn't want to face Tarek Skubal in a short series.
No, not 3 times, right? In a 7-game.
Yeah, so probably Brewers and Tigers. I think that would be a good one.
Okay, that's cool, Eric. We'd like to have you back. Maybe during the postseason or something, if you want to come back, and we could talk about what's going on in the postseason at that time.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes.
All right, sounds good. Now, Chris, tomorrow night we have a special guest.
Yes, we have the puppet coming on from A Puppet Life.
So tomorrow night we're going to interview a Mets puppet. So everyone, it's at 10 p.m. tomorrow night. You're not going to want to miss it. It's going to be a lot of fun. This guy's a lot of fun. If you could check him out on TikTok under A Puppet's Life, and it's going to be fun tomorrow. So we're going to have a good time.
Yeah, picture Frank the Tank as a puppet, more or less.
Exactly. That's it.
God.
But anyway,
God. Exactly. That's what I said.
Oh, God.
Anyway,
no.
I want to thank everybody out there for sticking with us. Once again, Chris, on a Thursday night, we had a pretty good live audience, and they stuck with us for the whole show. Once again, we love our audience. And tomorrow night, we have to remember, it's our 1 year anniversary, actually August 28th. Already the show's a year old, and we're going to have a giveaway. So we're going to talk about that. So make sure you tune in tomorrow, 10 p.m. We're going to interview a puppet, and we're going to have a lot of fun. So thanks again, Eric. Chris,
thanks again, Eric. Appreciate it, man.
I'll talk to you tomorrow night.
Sure. Yep.
Sounds good.
Take care, guys.
All right.